Today I'm going to be doing a video that basically delves into the history of my Animar deck, why I chose him as my general, um, some cards that were in the deck but just didn't work out and I cut them, and really just looking to give you guys some background information because I know that when it comes time to do my Animar deck tech, with it being all foiled out, it's going to be something that I'm really proud of, and I'm going to want to spend a lot of time talking about it. So if I can get a couple things knocked out of the way before I do that deck tech, it'll shorten the video and hopefully allow more people to be interested in seeing it, as opposed to looking at it and being like, oh shit, 20-minute video, I'm not going to watch it. So we're going to try to keep it like a 10 or whatever. So Animar, let's get started. For those that don't know, I started playing Magic in like 1996, played till about 2003, and then quit. And then I got back into it in 2011, and first booster box that I bought getting back into Magic was Innistrad, and I pulled a Grimgrin in that box. And my cousin and friend, both in college, were getting ready to start winter break, head back home to Connecticut, and so they're going to be passing my house on the way, and they decided, hey, let's stop by and play some Magic, and they told me about EDH, so I read up on the rules, read on how to build the decks and stuff, and I put together a Grimgrin EDH deck. We played probably like 10 matches, and I think I won 0. In fact, I know I won 0. My deck sucked, completely and utterly sucked. But that's okay, because everybody has to start somewhere. Everybody's a noob at some point in their life, and so I use that as a building block to get better. So when they left, I told myself, okay, time to do some research, time to look at some other people's decks that are competitive. That way I can be better next time we all get together and play. So I did some research and was looking at a bunch of tier 1, tier 1.5 decks that have already been put together and proven in play. And there were a couple outside of that, though. There were also a couple different generals that I thought would be kind of neat to try. Kalia was cool. I thought those colors would be cool to play. My favorite colors are junk, and I thought that would be cool to play. But after reading about it and after seeing like some of the different infinite combos, it really seemed like Animar was the deck for me. I really like green, being able to ramp into things. I thought ramping was super important in Commander, and then blue just affords you so many different possibilities as far as card draw and stuff. And the red in Animar really isn't too prominent. It's really just a couple cards for the red, but red does normally tend to be one of the weaker colors. So anyways, built Animar, and kind of shaped it from other people's deck lists that I had read about, and we got together, played again, and 10 matches, and I think this time I probably won 3, and my good friend Steven won 5, and then my other cousin, he won like 2, so made some improvements there. But here's the thing that really got to me. The way I built my deck was, you play Animar, you get a lot of counters on him, and you cast a bunch of fatties essentially for free. Looking at the Eldrazi's, free Eldrazi's, and free big fatty creatures. It just so happens that my cousin ran Bribery, and my friend ran Bribery, and everybody runs Bribery, and Bribery. And if they're playing Animar, what does Animar run? Fat creatures. So who are they going to target? Me. Ulamog was really like the downfall to me. It was harder for me to be able to try to tutor and cast Ulamog off of Animar counters before they would turn 4, turn 5 bribery, and it's just not one person I'm worried about, it was the two of them. And so I can only imagine if I'm playing in an even bigger game, with like 8 people, how many people are going to run bribery because it's such a good card. And so that really made me consider how to change the deck. And so my current deck does not revolve around any fat creatures or creatures for free that use Animar. Instead, I've worked the deck to be completely enter the battlefield effects type creatures. Not only does that afford me a really nice kind of 2-for-1, you get an effect and you get a creature, but I've tailored the deck to, if somebody briberies me, there's really not a single creature that they can take that's going to spell problems for me in the long run. I mean, it's just nothing there. And then the fact with these enter the battlefield effects is I've got different artifacts and stuff that would allow me to bounce the creature back to my hand, and then I can recast it for cheap. So, for example, the new card from Gatecrash, Sylvan Primordial, I think is 2 forest or 2 green mana, 5 colorless, and comes into play and destroys like a non-creature permanent of each of your opponents. So say you have like 6 creatures out, Gaia's Cradle, boom, that's 6 green mana right there. And with Cloudstone Curio, cast Sylvan Primordial 3 times just off of those couple cards, blow up 3 non-creature permanents for all your opponents. So it worked out really well, and it's a lot of fun to play, and there's a couple of infinite combos still in there for me to be able to work towards, and keep it extremely competitive, since that's kind of how my friends, cousins, that's my play group's mentality is infinite combos equals the best. So that's kind of the background how I got to Animar, and kind of how the deck is going to work. And so now I'm going to showcase some of the cards that were in the deck, and I decided to cut, and I'll kind of go into the reasons why. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at some of the cards that did not make the cut in my final version of the deck. They've all seen play in the deck. They're all good cards, but there's just some things that I had problems with, some things that they just weren't better than other cards, and so I'm going to go over them with you guys. First up, we have Temple of the False God. A lot of Commander players love it. It's a slow enough format that you're able to get out your 5 lands to start using this land's ability for 2 colorless. The problem I have with it is it's a dead card in your opening hand. You really can't take advantage of it in the early turns. An alternate card would be Ancient Tomb. At the cost of 2 life, which is nothing in Commander, you can use that 2 colorless mana. Which I don't actually run either of, but Temple of the False God, that's why it came out. Next up, we've got the Signets, Izzet Signet, and the Simic Signet, and the Gruul Signet. These are all fine cards. They are very nice if your opponent has different land destruction, and that way you can keep your fixing. But I feel that with the way my deck is able to ramp and find the right mana colors that I need, these just really weren't doing too much. Next up, we have Mimic Vat. It's a fantastic card. I like it a lot. If you're playing a game and a lot of creatures are dying, put the copy of it on Mimic Vat, you're imprinting it, and then you get to keep putting the tokens. They're exiled, but you can take advantage of a lot of their enter the battlefield effects, which is nice. Next up, we have Brainstorm. Solid instant. It's one of the best deck manipulation abilities out there. But it just didn't really do too much for Commander. It's like a one-time thing. Counterspell, it's solid. With Animar, there's not too much removal, so you do kind of rely heavily on counterspells to keep you having the advantage. But I don't really run too many counterspells. You'll see. Next up is Muddle the Mixture. It's to counters target instant or sorcery. The thing I liked about it was that you can transmute it. So for 3 mana, you discard this card, search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card, reveal it, put it in your hand, play as a sorcery. So if you didn't really want to hang on to the counter spell, it's basically a tutor for a 3-drop, which I liked, but it still didn't do enough. Time of Need. Search your library for a legendary creature card. It's a good tutor, goes in your hand. Originally I was running quite a few legendary creatures. I like this in case Animar was shuffled into my library or something. But when I revamped it and took a lot of the fatty creatures out, I was left with really no legendary creatures, and this wasn't justified keeping it just to try to tutor Animar out of my deck. Explosive Vegetation, very good ramp card, but there's better out there. I personally like Skyshroud Claim, that's what I'm running. That gets you 2 forest cards into play, not tapped, and they're forest cards, so you can search out your dual lands, your shock lands, you know, those kind of things, as opposed to this being basics. Comet Storm is, you know, great direct damage. If you were running Pelinkrin, you know, you could go infinite. Come on, let's get some focus. I think the foil is really throwing the camera off. Anyways, I'll just read it. 2 red, and there we go. So you get to multi-kicker and choose target creature or player, then choose another for each time it was kicked and deal X damage. So if you create infinite mana with Pelinkrin, multi-kick it, then it's just an infinite win, direct damage to the face. Equilibrium is actually a card that I do really like, and I still like it quite a bit. Whenever you successfully cast a creature spell, you may pay 1 colorless and return target creature to owner's hand. So this actually goes very well with the way my deck currently is set up. I don't have, I mean, if there was a 101 card slot, then yeah, this would probably be in it, but it's not, and I like other cards over it. But it is fantastic, bouncing other people's creatures, bouncing your enter the battlefield creatures back to your hand. It's good. Dreamstalker. It's 2-drop for a 1/5, and return a permanent to its owner's hand. So it's good for bouncing like one of your things to your hand to replay, or taking care of something on the board. I like Snapcaster. It's a great card, especially in, you know, Legacy, Modern. I think it's still relevant in Standard, but in EDH with this type of deck, I only have, you know, like 5 or 6 sorceries or instants. So the fact is, he really doesn't do much, even though those sorceries are really powerful. He's just been a dead card in my hand for a long time. So I got rid of him. Next we have Champion of Lambholt, which is really solid. I like this card a lot. You know, you're recasting a bunch of your creatures. You know, Shrieking Drake, play it, bounce it, play it, bounce it, play it, bounce it. Get a bunch of 1/1 counters on Animar, but then you'd get a bunch of 1/1 counters on this guy. And then, of course, creatures with power less than him can't block, so then you can swing in for, you know, lethal pretty easily. Next is Riku. He's really just a fun card. You know, you can build a EDH deck around him in itself. You know, he came in the Animar deck, but I just didn't really care for the way he worked. Next up is Teferi. 3/4 flash, and creatures you own that aren't on the battlefield have flash. Each opponent can cast spells only many times he or she can cast a sorcery. So that's really nice that you can't really catch a bunch of hate during your turn. But I hated the fact that he's triple blue. Next up, Charmbreaker Devils. Same kind of concept with him, being able to return an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard to your hand. You know, since I'm not running that many sorceries or instants, it would prove pretty useful that I'd only get, you know, the instant or the sorcery that I wanted back. For instance, Time Walk. I play Time Walk to take an extra turn, and Charmbreaker Devils, you know, I play him, so then during my next turn, then if Time Walk's the only card in my graveyard, then basically I get to take infinite turns, because I just keep returning Time Walk to my hand, cast it, cast whatever I need to cast after that, lands, draw cards, and just not play any new sorceries. That way I know exactly what I'm getting. But it didn't work out. Going into a couple of the big fatties, like I explained before, that I was running, that really just didn't do much. I didn't like them. Terra Stomper, 6 drop for a 8/8 trample, can't be countered. That's pretty awesome. Primordial Sage, good card draw. Whenever you play a creature spell, draw a card. The card I liked more than that was Soul of the Harvest. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Same converted mana cost, but he's a bigger body with trample. So I liked him, but he came out as well. Draining Welk is another card that a lot of Animar decks like to run. 1/1 flash flying, and when he comes into play, counter target spell and put X 1/1 counters on Draining Welk, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. It's always nice having creatures to act as counter spells, especially if Animar's out with counters. But the fact is, he costs 6 mana, and he's just more of a reactive type spell. So you're just going to be hanging on to him until your opponent actually does something. And I I didn't like that. And then if Animar was answered, then you can't play it. It becomes a dead card. And so it came out of my deck because I felt it was too slow. It was too reactive and not doing anything. Alright, next up we have Hellkite Charger. He's a 5/5 flying haste. Whenever he attacks, you may pay 7 mana. That's 2 red, 5 colorless. If you do untap all attacking creatures after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. And so what I have with this guy is I would pair it with Bear Umbra. This Bear Umbra enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control. So if Hellkite Charger is enchanted with Bear Umbra, and pending that the person you attack doesn't have any blocks that would kill Hellkite Charger or whatever, you basically go infinite with an aerial attack. Because when he attacks, untap all lands, then get another attack phase off of Hellkite Charger and repeat. The fact is, you needed 2 cards, and this was hard to tutor for an aura. So I didn't really care for the combination between the two in this deck. Next up, we have the Engulfing Slagworm. It's a card that I like a lot, but just another big fatty that really didn't do too much in the deck. Plated Slagworm, same thing. 8/8 hexproof, basically. Not good. Palinchrin, it's a way to make infinite mana. And, without Comet Storm, there's really not too many things that I need for having infinite mana. Terastodon, this was a good steal target for people's briberies, and really just kind of would be devastating, so I cut him, and that's how most of these other cards are going to be. Vorinclex, just another bribery target that really would lock me down. 7/6, whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool, and whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, that land doesn't untap. And so as you can see, Animar not having too many answers in itself as far as creature removal. If somebody stole these creatures from me, it was hard for me to come back. Jin-Gitaxias, same thing. At the beginning of your end step, draw 7 cards. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. And next we have Ulamog. Yeah, this guy was a bastard. When he comes into play, or when you cast him, destroy target permanent and Annihilator 4, and he's indestructible. The Annihilator 4 is what's so hard to get past. The fact that you can't kill him. Yeah, this was the #1 bribery target. And So he had to come out, and I had to readjust my deck and into how it works. And finally, we have Jace the Mind Sculptor. Solid card, very solid. You know, the fact that you can brainstorm over and over again, the fact that you can return target creature owner's hand, that includes your own creatures, and you could replay them. You know, really good, but ultimately, I cut him. He was like the very last card I cut, one of the harder decisions that I had to make. But in EDH, you know, he's not as good like as in Legacy. So there you have it. That's a lot of the cards, basically, that I cut from the deck. And I hope you guys are excited and pumped to check out my fully foiled out Animar Soul of Elements EDH deck. Hopefully that'll be coming to you guys soon. I am going to be pretty busy this weekend, so it's probably going to take till next week for me to get that done. But hope you guys enjoyed this video, getting a little background information as to my Animar deck and the cards that didn't make it. Hope you guys enjoyed. See ya.